The rain came down hard over the dry Texas plains that night, drumming against the old wooden roof of Carson Ranch like the heartbeat of fate itself. Jack Carson, a rugged rancher with hands roughened by years of labor and eyes darkened by loss, stood by the barn door, staring into the storm. It had been years since he'd let anyone close, not since his wife had passed, leaving him alone with nothing but ghosts and cattle. But fate had its own plans. That evening, while riding back from town, he'd found her, Emma Lee, the widow from the neighboring county, half-drenched, her horse injured, her eyes wild with fear. He'd brought her to his ranch out of decency, out of instinct, out of something he didn't want to name. Now, as thunder cracked and the wind howled through the ranch house, she stood there in the dim lamplight, her hair clinging to her face, her breath trembling as if caught between gratitude and something deeper. Jack turned away, trying to be polite, trying to ignore the pull he felt deep in his chest. But Emma stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't!" "Stop," he froze, misunderstanding her tone, thinking she meant his nervous rambling about the storm. "I wasn't," he started, but when he looked up, her eyes were filled with tears. "I meant, don't stop being kind," she said softly. "You saved me out there. No one's ever done that for me." Jack's throat tightened. Kindness wasn't something he'd known much of, and hearing it from her, it hit like a bullet wrapped in tenderness. He wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, silence filled the space between them, heavy, trembling, electric. The fire cracked, throwing golden light across her face, and for a moment it was as if the storm outside had melted away, leaving only the two of them standing on the edge of something neither could name. "You can stay the night," he muttered finally, rubbing the back of his neck. "The guest room's got a stove. Should be warm enough." Emma smiled faintly, her lips curving with a kind of tired relief that made his heart ache. She nodded, then hesitated. "You always carry the world on your shoulders, Jack?" she asked. He chuckled lowly. "Out here, someone's got to." Her eyes studied him, deep and curious, as though she could see the years of grief buried behind his calm. When she turned to leave for her room, lightning flashed, and he saw the bruise on her wrist, fresh, purple, cruel. His jaw tightened. "Who did that to you?" he asked quietly. She froze, the color draining from her face. "Doesn't matter," she said quickly. But Jack's voice turned to steel. "It matters now." She met his eyes, fear flickering there, then whispered, "My late husband's brother. He wanted what wasn't his. When I refused, he said he'd take it anyway." Jack's fists clenched at his sides. The storm outside seemed to roar louder, echoing his anger. "You're safe here," he said, his voice low, controlled, but burning underneath. "No one touches you." Again, she looked up at him, tears glistening, and for the first time in a long while, she believed someone meant those words. Hours passed. The storm eased into silence. Jack sat near the fire, unable to sleep, the image of her trembling shoulders haunting him. Then, faintly, he heard it, a soft sob from down the hall. Without thinking, he rose and walked to her door. "Emma!" he called gently. No answer. He pushed the door open and found her sitting by the window, the moonlight washing over her face. She looked up, startled, then tried to smile through the tears. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you," she whispered. "You didn't," he said, stepping inside. Couldn't sleep. For a long moment, they just stared at each other, the silence full of things unsaid. "It's strange," she murmured. "When you lose everything, you stop expecting anyone to care. Then someone like you shows up and it hurts. It hurts to hope again." Jack's chest tightened. He took a slow step closer. "Hope's the only thing worth hurting for," he said softly. She looked away, her voice trembling. "Don't say things like that, Jack. I might start believing them." "Maybe you should," he replied. The words hung in the air like smoke. Then she stood, turning toward him. Her hands shook, but her eyes held steady. "I'm tired of running," she whispered. "Tired of being afraid." He reached out slowly, like calming a wild horse. "You don't have to run anymore." She hesitated, then took his hand. It was warm, rough, safe, and for a heartbeat the world outside ceased to exist. But when the door creaked from the hallway, they both froze, realizing someone was outside. Jack grabbed his rifle from the wall, motioning her back. The sound came again, a thud, a shadow crossing the porch. He moved to the window and saw a dark figure standing in the rain. "Stay here," he ordered, stepping out into the night. The cold hit him hard, but adrenaline burned hotter. "Who's there?" he called. The figure didn't answer, only turned and disappeared into the darkness. When Jack came back inside, Emma ran to him, panic in her eyes. "He found me, didn't he?" she gasped. Jack shook his head. "Maybe, but he won't touch you, not while—" "I'm breathing." She gripped his arm. "Don't go after him, Jack. Please." He looked at her, the firelight dancing between them. "I have to." But as he turned toward the door, her voice broke through the storm again, soft, trembling, desperate. "Don't stop!" He turned, heart pounding, meeting her tearful gaze. "Don't stop protecting me," she whispered. "Don't stop caring." His resolve melted, his expression softening. "I won't," he said. "Not tonight, not ever." And in that moment, standing in the flickering light, with the storm fading and the world holding its breath, something changed inside him. The rancher who'd sworn never to feel again found his heart beating for someone new. The woman who'd given up on trust found safety in his promise. And as dawn crept over the horizon, painting the plains gold, both of them knew that this night, the night of misunderstanding, fear, and fragile hope, was the start of everything. Morning rose over Carson Ranch, soft and gold after the night's storm. Jack stepped outside, the scent of wet earth filling the air, his mind still replaying Emma's trembling voice. "Don't stop caring." Inside, she sat by the window wrapped in one of his blankets, her bruises fading, but her eyes still shadowed by fear. "You didn't sleep," he said quietly. "Neither did you," she replied with a faint smile. Their silence said more than words ever could. Jack poured her coffee, his hands shaking just slightly, not from cold, but from something deeper. "I meant what I said," he told her. "You're safe here, always." Emma looked at him then, really looked, and saw the man behind the roughness, broken but gentle, scarred but alive. "You keep saving me," she whispered. "Maybe that's what I was meant to do," he said softly. But before he could say more, a distant gunshot split the quiet. Jack's eyes hardened. He knew that sound. Emma's past had followed her home. "Stay inside," he ordered, grabbing his rifle. "Jack, please!" she cried, tears glistening. He turned back, his voice low but fierce. "I won't let him take you." Then he was gone into the rising sun. Emma pressed her hand to the window, whispering through her tears, "Don't stop. Come back." Somewhere across the plains, a single gun echoed, and the rancher's promise was tested by destiny itself.